Alright, hello people, I'm the dude, and this is my rant review for the movie Sunshine, which sounds like a happy movie. Not really. Uh, the short version of this sci-fi space disaster movie, two in a row, why not? Whereas Maroon was very realistic, this is very sci-fi, very soft science, none of it really makes any sense. But short version, it wants to be Event Horizon, and it's not. uh, Built up a whole millisecond of suspense there. It's not Event Horizon. But, I don't know. It wasn't terrible. The pacing was pretty good. Things were happening. There was always a problem to solve, something to discuss, something going on. The ending was stupid. Really stupid, but I'll get into that. The characters were all one-dimensional as all hell. Caricatures. One guy was, rah, we gotta get the mission done, and one guy was the brains, and this one of the women was kind of the voice of reason, and one guy was a man of action. You get the idea. There's not much character development here. You don't really get a sense of who they're supposed to be, but overall, I don't even know if I'd recommend it, but then I didn't hate it either. So there's the short version. The long version with the spoilers, it wants to be Event Horizon, but then what doesn't? Same type of space disaster movie where they're on a mission, they're on a spaceship, in this case more of a realistic looking spaceship, in that it looks like a satellite, basically a big long satellite with, the doodads spinning around off it and the girders with different, connections and all that crap. And it looks like it's got a sail on the front, but in this case it's a heat shield, which somehow prevents the sun from melting the ship. They're flying directly to the sun, as in, like, right into it, right into the sun, and all the way up till the end. This heat shield paneling thing that's just on the front of the ship, not the whole ship, just the front, is somehow protecting the ship from the sun. I don't know. I don't understand it. From the solar radiation or whatever. But they're on a mission to get to the sun, and crazy guy shows up, and crazy guy is going to ruin their party, and crazy guy is going to, cause havoc and get people killed and all that stuff. Exact same plot as Event Horizon. Space ship on a mission going somewhere. Crazy guy has other plans. In this case, crazy guy is Mark Strong, and he could have been the best part of this movie, but he just doesn't do much. You see him in like a couple of clips at the beginning of the movie, so you know who he is. He says a couple of things in a couple of like video logs or whatever, and they watch them. And then about halfway through the movie, he shows up and he turns into the antagonist. Where the antagonist before was just space and, the natural problems that you incur flying a spaceship through space. He turns into the antagonist about halfway through because he's causing all the mischief, the deaths. And he's trying to be Sam Neill, but he's just not. He's not. I'm sorry, I like Mark Strong and all that, but he's not Sam Neill. And this is not Event Horizon. But anyways, the basic plot is the sun is dying. The only way I can, I guess, explain that would be, I guess it's running out of fuel. That's what happens when suns die. They run out of fuel. They burn themselves out. Somehow they're going to fly their ship to the sun, shoot this payload off into the sun through some kind of black spot, which is going to make it safe, I guess. I don't know. But they're going to fire it into the sun. It's going to explode, and that's going to restart the sun. Like I said, it doesn't make much sense. The device that they're firing in there, I think they explain it as a bomb, but it doesn't look like a bomb, especially when it goes off at the end of the movie. There's no bomb here. There's no explosion at all. So I don't really understand it, but I guess you don't really need to. All you need to know is it's a doodad that's going to fix the sun. And, their only mission, the only thing they care about is getting it to the sun. So, and they're all pretty much on the same page about that, for the most part. I mean, they're all pretty well ready to give up their life in this pursuit. One guy would rather other people give up their lives, in place of his, but I think even he was still on board with the whole everybody's expendable thing. So, en route to this is the first half of the movie, en route to the sun, they make a couple of mistakes. The shielding gets off, it's not set right, and it gets broken in places. They go to fix it, and the captain bites it, trying to fix it. He dies heroically, of course. It is a space movie. There's going to be heroic deaths. And then I think the second deaths are when they find the other spaceship. There was another one identical to this one. That was the first ship that they sent. It disappeared. They lost all communication to it. And then they immediately built another ship and another bomb and sent that one. They find the first ship, and it turns out that crazy guy, Mark Strong, the captain of the first ship, went all crazy. And he disabled the ship, and all the rest of his crew killed themselves, and he survived for 7 years alone on the ship. And he looks like a fucking Rice Krispie. He looks like a Rice Krispie treat. I think what happened is, when they all burned themselves and they all turned to ash, somehow he survived it, I guess. That's the only way I can explain why he's so burned. Because his whole body's got like 3rd-degree burns. And somehow he survived that. I don't know. Whatever. So he's on that ship. He's running around doing his thing for 7 years. The new team shows up. And it turns out that he thinks that God, the Mark Strong, thinks that God doesn't want them to succeed. I don't know why. I don't know where he got this from. It isn't explained. He just starts saying this crap, and it is what it is. So he decides that he's going to stop them. He's going to stop the other ship, the new one, the new crew. And he sabotages the docking port thing that attaches the ships. That explodes. Ends up killing 2 people. One of them stays behind to pull the docking lever thing. I have to do it manually, of course. Of course you have to do it manually. Like, they wouldn't have backups, or like remote controller. Fucking something, a cord that you could pull. I don't know, something. But no, he has to do it manually. So he stays behind. He has no other way to get back to the other ship, so he's effectively dead. One of the guys gets knocked off when they're trying to eject themselves to the ship. Not only can they not open the docking door, but it's broken so they can't attach. So they have to eject themselves across through space using the suction to throw themselves to the other ship. One of the guys gets knocked off, and he has a really cool death where he freezes in space. I'm not more soft science. I'm not really sure how the hell this works, where they're attaching themselves to this guy who's in a spacesuit, right? There's only one spacesuit, of course. The most important guy, the guy who runs the bomb, the guy, the scientist or whatever the hell he's called, payload specialist guy that runs the bomb that's gonna save the Earth. He's the one that's in the spacesuit, obviously, because he's the most important. The other 2 wrapped themselves in like fucking tinfoil or some shit, like this heat shielding. They pull it off the walls and they wrap themselves up with it. I don't know. I guess every little bit helps. So they wrap themselves up with that, and they latch themselves on to, the guy in the spacesuit. And they're going to blow the docking door, and they're going to fly across to the other ship through space and enter the docking port thing and then close it, and everything will be hunky-dory, I guess. The problem with that is space is a vacuum, right? The way it works is it's not just cold. It's not, the absence of heat. It's not just the absence of heat. It's a vacuum. I mean, you'd have to close every single orifice of your body somehow, if that's even possible. You'd have to be airtight. You'd have to make yourself airtight. I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if, maybe theoretically you could. I don't know, but they fly through space. I think they say it's like negative 200 and something degrees or whatever. You'd think you'd freeze solid instantly, but they don't. They fly across space, holding on to the guy in the suit, and they don't implode or explode or whatever the vacuum of space does to you. And one of them survives. One of them gets knocked off because of debris, but one of them actually survives the trip. And he's no worse for wear. I think one of his fingers got frostbite or something, but they just kind of gloss over that. He shows his hand, and it looks like it's got frostbite, and that's really it. Other than that, he's functioning perfectly well. He didn't suffer any brain damage or severe, skin problem from being frozen or any of that stuff. So he's fine. By the way, it's Chris Evans is the one that survived going through the space thing. The Human Torch from Fantastic Four. So yeah, that's 2 more deaths. Chris Evans bites it next, I think. Or no, wait, the comm specialist guy commits suicide because he thinks it's his fault. He thinks all the problems up to this point are his fault. Some of them kind of were, some of them kind of weren't, but it doesn't matter. So he kills himself. Chris Evans has to fix more of the sabotage from Mark Strong. He's trying to destroy the mainframe, which means the computer won't be operational, which means they can't pilot the ship anymore, something like that. So he goes to fix that, and of course, the only way to fix the thing is to jump into this, like, sub-zero coolant stuff that keeps it cool. No suit, no robotic arm thing to fix it, no tools, no assistance of any kind from the ship itself. Nothing. He has to dive into this stuff face first and end up dying of hypothermia to fix it, of course. So that's heroic death like 4 or 5. I don't know. I'm losing track at this point. So Chris Evans is toast. At this point, there's like 4 left. Mark Strong, the main guy, the payload guy, Rose Byrne, which I haven't mentioned at this point because she's not really a part of this movie. I'll get to that in a minute. And what's her name? What is her name? Hold up. Sunshine. No, that one. 2007. Melissa Yeoh. Michelle Yeoh. Sorry, Michelle Yeoh. She's still alive. She's kind of distraught because her garden got burned or whatever. I don't know. You'd think that would be low on the priority list. But, right after it happens, she, like, loses her shit and she just kind of falls over, and then you see her later in the room just sitting there, and I don't know. She serves no purpose to the movie, really. If she does, you're gonna have to tell me what it is, because I don't honestly know. She doesn't even get a good death scene. She's just kind of there when the place gets vacuumed. You know, when they depressurize the place, she's just kind of in the room and she gets sucked out into space. That's it. It's not really spectacular at all. She doesn't have anything to contribute to the story. I mean, as far as the ship goes, she's a botanist. She mans the garden, or whatever you want to call it. She keeps the plants growing, but once the plants get destroyed, she has no purpose for the rest of the show. So I don't know, whatever. So she gets killed whenever the place depressurizes by the main guy, whose name is Cillian Murphy, apparently. I've seen him a couple of times, but he's not that great, so I don't really care. He's the payload guy. I'm going to keep calling him that. The guy who mans the bomb, or whatever the hell it is. I don't know what the hell it is. He has to depressurize the whole ship, the crew compartment of the ship, to get through, to open the door, to get through the ship, to get to the payload. Because the payload is this separate thing that's going to detach and fly into the sun. He has to be there to man the thing. He has to be there to turn it on and press some buttons and flip some switches or whatever. I don't know. The thing can't run on auto, apparently. There are no fail-safes in the future, I guess. So he depressurizes the ship. Michelle Yeoh's body just kind of goes flying by out into space. He runs through the ship, and he gets to the payload, and it turns out that Mark Strong, of course, is on the payload. Or in the payload, or whatever you want to call it. It's this big-ass cube with the bomb in the center, and then the shielding is attached to the front. This big, massive shielding panel thing. It's huge. That's what's been blocking the sunlight. So it's all that section of the ship. He gets there, and Mark Strong tries to kill him, and this is where the movie kind of goes off the rails. It hasn't made much sense up to this point, but it had, a sense of progression, and the plot wasn't completely stupid, I guess, and things happened that made kind of sense, but this is where it gets a little ridiculous. So the thing is falling into the sun. At this point, they're literally right next to the sun, falling into it. Somehow they're fine. You think the heat would be so overwhelming at that point that they would be fried, but apparently that heat shield is amazing. So they're falling into the sun, and Mark Strong, he's like hanging them off the side of this cube thing, which holds the bomb thing, and he like drops them, and time kind of slows and freezes and stops and starts, and then gravity changes, and they're like stuck on the side of the cube thing, and then he's up here and they're down here, and I don't know what the hell's going on. And then Mark Strong, up to this point, for the last half of the movie, he's been the antagonist. He's been the problem that they've had to solve. He's been creating the problems. And at this point, he just kind of vanishes for the last 10 minutes of the movie. He's at the top of the cube thing, and they're on the side of the cube thing because gravity is all weird, and he looks down at them, and then you never see him again. He's not dead. He hasn't just changed his mind. He hasn't had a change of heart. He still wants to sabotage the place. He still believes. He's a fanatically believes that he has to stop them. But he just kind of vanishes. He sees that they're still alive and they're sitting there. And he must know that they're going to try and, finish the mission. But he just kind of disappears. I don't know. Rose Byrne, who, like I said, I haven't said much about up to this point, even though I guess at this point she's the other star of the movie, as far as like brand names go. She's done nothing this entire movie. Much like Michelle Yeoh, she's just kind of there. She says stuff every once in a while, kind of contributes to conversations, but she's not a driving force in the plot. And she has no big moment. You know, she's not even... What the hell does she do on the ship? I mean, Michelle Yeoh didn't do much, but at least she was a botanist. You know, she had a job on the ship. As far as the movie goes, she didn't add much to the movie, but she had a purpose on the ship. What the hell was Rose Byrne's purpose? I mean, let's see. The captain died right at the beginning of the movie, but he was the captain, obviously. There was a comms officer. He ended up dying because he got knocked off into space. There was a counselor, psychologist, whatever. He stayed behind on the other ship to pull the lever or whatever to flip the doodad. The guy who ran the heat shielding or something, manned the heat shielding thing, he killed himself, but at least he had a purpose for the ship. What's his name was the pilot? Chris Evans was the pilot. Who else? And then the last guy, the main guy, Cillian Murphy, was the payload specialist guy. What the hell was Rose Byrne? She just kind of faffs about throughout the movie, now that I think about it. She never does anything. See, okay, you see her when Cillian is dreaming or something, when he's like asleep, she shows up and she talks to him and she's like, you know, you did the right thing or blah, blah, blah. All the times when there's a major decision, she's there in the background and she might say a few things, but she's never like contributing anything vital to the team. You know, it's not like she's a scientist or anything, or if she is, I don't know what kind. Later in the movie, her only purpose is to run away from Mark Strong. At the very end of the movie, when it's just her and Kappa left, the payload guy, I'm gonna keep calling him that. When it's just those three left, her only purpose is to run away from him. You see several snippets of scenes of her just running away, and then running away, and then running into this room, and running into that room, and at the very, very end of the movie, before he leaves to activate the bomb or whatever, which I'll get to in a minute, she's there and she just basically tells him to go do it. That's it. It's not any more or less complicated. The conversation is not any more complicated than that. She just says, go activate the bomb, basically, and he goes and does it. So her character is 100% useless in every way. And more than that, I don't know what she does on the ship. I mean, her character is useless to us, the audience, because she's not doing anything for the movie, but even for just like the movie itself, you know, what did she do? I don't know. Her purpose within the movie, I don't know what it was. But anyways, he leaves to go to the bomb room, or I forgot what he calls it, but it's just a, you know, mysterious doodad MacGuffin thing that's gonna kickstart the sun. So he goes in there, and this is when more crazy shit happens that doesn't make any sense. He activates the thing, right? Flips some switches, presses some buttons, like turns some dials, whatever the hell. He turns the thing on, and these weird like firefly things pop up, and he kind of explained it a little bit earlier in the movie in that it's like cell division. One shows up and then it divides, and then exponentially they keep dividing, and apparently that's going to create energy for the sun. It didn't really get any more complicated than that as far as the explanation goes, but he activates the thing and it starts dividing, and the little firefly things are all over the place, and the cube is flying into the sun, and then like the sun breaks through the heat shielding and it's like melting through the hole, and you see this big wave of whatever, I don't know what you'd call it, like molten material from the sun itself. It's all flying through the ship, and it hits that one part where the little bomb things, firefly deals, I don't know what the hell to call them. They're there. It hits those and it just freezes. It just stops. At this point, I don't know if time has stopped or if the ship is still moving, but the firefly things are somehow stopping the sun from coming in to the thing, the cube or whatever. I don't know, but the wall of molten whatever material stops. Kappa is sitting there on the floor, and somehow, even though the sun's, you know, the sun's material is right there, you know, it's literally like within feet of him. He's not hot. He's not getting burned. It's not like he's sweating. The heat isn't affecting him at all. in any way. And beyond that, he like walks up and touches it, or at least it looks like he touches it. He like reaches out to touch it, and apparently that doesn't burn him either. And then it just fades from there, and that's it for that segment of the movie. Makes no fucking sense at all. At all. What just happened, right? So it cuts away and it goes to the Earth. I think this is the first time they've shown the Earth at all throughout the entire movie. And it shows some of Kappa's family members. I'm assuming it's his sister and her kids, is what it is. They're the only people on Earth you get to see at all in the entire movie, I believe. So it cuts to Earth. You see the sister and the kids, and she's watching a message from Kappa, and it says something like, 8 minutes after we succeed, you'll be able to see the sun brighten up. It'll lighten up, because that's what they were doing. They're trying to recharge the sun. And, she's timed it or whatever, and she's like, kids, it's time, and they look up, and then the sun brightens up. That's the end of the fucking movie. Really abrupt. Obviously, they succeeded their mission, but you don't get to see any of the aftermath of what happens from them saving the Earth, It's not like they're treated as heroes, or there's no memorial, or you don't get to see their families, or you don't get to hear the government talk about their success, or nothing. Nothing happens. It's just they see the sun brighten up, success, and that's it. No fanfare, no applause, nothing. The movie ends. And, terrible fucking ending. Really, really bad. Obviously, the abrupt ending is bad, but before that, none of it made any sense. How the machine works, and how it keeps stopping time at random or something, and how the gravity keeps changing, and where the hell did Mark Strong go? He just kind of disappears, and it's just too many question marks at the end of that movie. Glaring question marks. So, yeah, the ending was crap. There's no way to put it. It was crap. The rest of the movie was so-so. It was mediocre. It wasn't what I would call bad, but it obviously wasn't anything interesting. There's not anything memorable, other than the Firefly things, just because I'm still trying to figure out what the hell it is. I mean, not memorable in a good way, memorable in a confusion kind of way, in that didn't make any sense kind of way. But, yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend it. Honestly, if you want to watch a movie like this, watch Event Horizon if you haven't. Or hell, watch Event Horizon again, even if you have watched it. It's a better movie. It's got better actors, with a better plot, and a better script, and, things happen that are memorable, and it's genuinely creepy as hell at points, and Sam Neill is fucking amazing, and it's just the better version of this movie, straight up. This movie wants to be Event Horizon, and it's not, sadly. Didn't have the actors, didn't have the script, didn't have anything. It wasn't a budget problem, because they got a lot of CG in this movie, and it seemed to have, decently high production values. It was just a personnel problem, So, anyways, take that for what you will. Sunshine, the wannabe Event Horizon, I guess. I'll see you guys next time. They're on a mission to get to the sun, and crazy guy shows up, and crazy guy is going to ruin their party, and crazy guy is going to, cause havoc and get people killed and all that stuff. Exact same plot as Event Horizon. Spaceship on a mission going somewhere. Crazy guy has other plans. In this case, crazy guy is Mark Strong, and he could have been the best part of this movie, but he just doesn't do much. You see him in like a couple of clips at the beginning of the movie, so you know who he is. He says a couple of things in a couple of like video logs or whatever, and they watch them. And then about halfway through the movie, he shows up, and he turns into the antagonist. Where the antagonist before was just space, and, the natural space disaster movie where they're on a mission, they're on a spaceship, in this case, more of a realistic-looking spaceship, in that it looks like a satellite, basically a big, long satellite with, the doodads spinning around off it, and the girders with different, connections and all that crap. And it looks like it's got a sail on the front, but in this case, it's a heat shield, which somehow prevents the sun from melting the ship. They're flying directly to the sun, as in, like, right into it, right into the sun, and all the way up till the end. This heat shield paneling thing that's just on the front of the ship, not the whole ship, just the front, is somehow protecting the ship from the sun. I don't know. I don't understand it. From the solar radiation or whatever. But that you incur flying a spaceship through space. He turns into the antagonist about halfway through because he's causing all the mischief, the deaths. And He's trying to be Sam Neill, but he's just not. He's not. I'm sorry, I like Mark Strong and all that, but he's not Sam Neill. And this is not Event Horizon. But anyways, the basic plot is the sun is dying. The only way I can, I guess, explain that would be, I guess it's running out of fuel. That's what happens when suns die. They run out of fuel. They burn themselves out. Somehow they're going to fly their ship to the sun, shoot this payload off into the sun through some kind of black spot, which is going to make... Alright, hello people, I'm the dude, and this is my rant review for the movie Sunshine, which sounds like a happy movie. Not really. The short version of this, sci-fi space disaster movie, 2 in a row, why not? Whereas Maroon was very realistic, this is very sci-fi, very soft science, none of it really makes any sense. But short version, it wants to be Event Horizon, and it's not. Built up a whole millisecond of suspense there. It's not Event Horizon. But I don't know, it wasn't terrible. The pacing was pretty good. Things were happening. There was always a problem to solve, something to discuss, something going on. The ending was stupid, really stupid, but I'll get into that. The characters were all one-dimensional as all hell, caricatures. One guy was rah, we gotta get the mission done, and one guy was the brains, and this one of the women was kind of the voice of reason, and one guy was a man of action. You get the idea. There's not much character development here. You don't really get a sense of who they're supposed to be. But overall, I don't even know if I'd recommend it, but then I didn't hate it either. So there's the short version. The long version with the spoilers, it wants to be Event Horizon, but then what doesn't? Same type of